So the next app here is called HelpLink, and I just wanted to kind of say something about this app before they came up. I remember very vividly a conversation that we had at the bottom of the staircase in the building that I work in, where this app first kind of like started, and they had this idea. They came to me and said, "Hey, I have this thing." As a homeowner, I appreciate this app a lot, and I hope it takes off. I'm gonna let them talk about why, but I do want to talk about how it got to this point. It's amazing to see, back to what we were just looking at with Knights. These ideas start as like these little fledgling ideas that people have in an iOS, sometimes in Android, even sometimes earlier. And it's amazing to see them grow into what they ultimately become. And this is one thing that I think that the project process does really well in that they go through a kind of an overview, and big shout out to the project staff to help guide these guys into kind of refining these ideas into a workable solution. Because what you see here is not just development, it's also a thought, right? It's something that's creative in nature and that turns into a real workable solution that ultimately solves a problem. This app, I think, does that really well. And to tell you a little bit about it, I'm going to bring up the first speaker, Nicholas.
Hello, hello. How you guys doing? All right, my name is Nicholas Jacob. I'm one of the 4 developers that created HelpLink. But first and foremost, I just want to say thank you for everyone for coming out. My family came from Michigan. I see some friends somewhere here. And my old professors, thank you guys for checking this out. We worked really hard on it. So, what is HelpLink? Well, HelpLink is a service-based application that's quick and easy to use and very convenient. And what I mean by that is you can take it out of your pocket, do what needs to be done, and then put it back and be done with it. There's 2 sides of this application. One, you have the seekers. The seekers are the people that are seeking assistance. And then you have the helpers, and these helpers are the people that help the seekers. And then this is also an application that creates opportunities. We'll talk more about all these bullet points later in the presentation. But first, let me give you an idea of how this actually works. So imagine if you're on your way to work tomorrow and your car doesn't start. You could use our app to request somebody to come and jump your car. Or maybe you have a dog and he's got a lot of energy, but you just don't have time to walk him. Or maybe you're not physically able to walk your dog anymore. Our application, you could request assistance for somebody to come walk your dog. Not here in Florida, but in 49 other states it does snow. I'm from Michigan. I've woken up to over a foot of snow before. So maybe you want someone to come shovel your driveway. All these things can happen with HelpLink. But on the flip side of that, what if you wanted to be the person to jump the car? Or you wanted to be the person to shovel the snow? This is an application that gives you an opportunity to make some extra cash. So hopefully that gives you a little insight about what this application is and what it does. But we've actually created a video to tell you a little more about it, and I'd like to play that for you right now. All right, thank you. So there's a lot that goes into creating an application aside from the code. There's the business and the marketing aspects, and another huge side of it is the user interface. When we were about halfway through our project, we realized that our user interface needed a lot of work. For example, when you launched our application, you're presented with this main category screen. You can see there's 5 categories, but it's taking up half the screen. And the color choices we picked, we thought at the time were great, but they're just kind of dull. We needed that pop. Here's another example. Let's say you were to click into automotive and go into Jumpstart. Again, you're presented with the subcategories, but it's only taking up a portion of the screen. So we got the permission, and we consulted with the designer, and she did amazing things to our application. She turned our category screen from this to this. And if you were to click on, let's say, automotive and jump into some categories, you're now presented with some beautiful full screen. You got some images, some icons. You really know what's going on when you see this application. Here's just a couple examples of what we did. Here's a job summary screen. Here's like an edit profile page. And then after our design, it gives it that pop and that look that we were actually looking for. I keep on saying this designer. Well, the designer just so happens to be my wonderful girlfriend, Lorraine, and she also happens to be in the crowd today. So I'd like to give her a round of applause for her hard work, please. Thank you. To dig down into a little bit of more functionality, I'm going to bring up another developer and one of my good friends, Logan McKenzie, to talk a little more. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. All right, my name is Logan McKenzie, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit more about the functionality within HelpLink. But before we do that, I want to dive into the 2 roles that are present within HelpLink: seekers and helpers. Seekers are the backbone of HelpLink's user base. They are the people who have a problem that needs to be solved, and they're the people who are posting the jobs and looking for helpers to help them out. Helpers are pretty self-explanatory. They do the jobs for the seekers, and then they get paid for their work. This is what HelpLink is all about: bringing together seekers and helpers to solve problems quickly and easily. But before you can get around to solving problems, you've got to sign up. So let's dive right into the app, starting with registration. Registration is very simple. You can log in with Facebook, or if you don't want to do that, we also have email. All we ask for is your full name, a photo of yourself, and your phone number, which will be used for payment. And that's it. Once you've done that, you're signed up, you're a seeker, and you can create and post jobs and pay helpers to help you out. But what if you want to be the one that is getting paid to work? Well, then you would want to apply to work. This is another very simple process. We require a little bit more information about you. We want to know what kind of car you drive so that we can let the seeker know what to look for when you're on your way. We want to know where you live. This is for the background check. And the background check, we use an API provided by GoodHire to run the background check. It checks you against national and local criminal databases, as well as the sex offender database. And it usually takes between 3 and 5 days to complete. Once it's completed, you'll get a push notification letting you know whether you have passed the check or failed it. And if you passed, then you're a helper, and you can begin getting paid to help seekers. Speaking of push notifications, they're the backbone of any mobile application, letting you know when important events occur. And HelpLink uses them in several key places. If you're a seeker, you'll get a push notification when you have a helper that has accepted your job and they're on their way, as well as when the helper has completed the job and they are awaiting payment. When you're a worker, you will get push notifications when a new job is in your area, as well as when the seeker has finished paying you. Now it's time to dig a little bit deeper into the meat of HelpLink, the jobs. And to do that, I'd like to invite up my good friend, David Firmer.
Thank you, Logan. As Logan said, I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about how jobs work within our application. As you can see, we have 5 main categories. Each of those categories has either 2 or 3 subcategories. So when a seeker goes to fill out the job, the first thing they're going to want to do is select that main category. Then they'll select the subcategory, and they'll start filling in some additional information. Now, that additional information will be different depending on the main category and the subcategory that the seeker selects. For example, if a seeker selects automotive and flat tire, they'll be faced with filling information in about their vehicle. So that would be the make, model, and the color. In addition, the seeker needs to fill out how much they want to pay for the job, as well as how long the job is going to exist on the worker map. And finally, they can add a picture and instructions. The picture and instructions are available on all the categories, no matter what they choose. Once a job has been posted, it sends a notification to all the workers within a 35-mile radius. Once the workers receive these notifications, they can go into our application and then go to the worker map, where there they'll see all the jobs that are in the area. Again, it's a 35-mile radius to where they're currently at. They can also filter these jobs by the 5 buttons that are at the bottom. Those 5 buttons are the same icons that you'll see every time you launch our app. They're the main categories that we have for our application. Once they've found a job that they'd like to work on, they can click on that View More Details, and it'll show all the information that the seeker filled in. If they do want to do that job, all they have to do is hit the Job Complete button, and it'll move them on to either Google Maps or Apple Maps, depending on if they're on an Android phone or on an Apple phone. Once they accept the job, we also send a notification to the seeker that posted it, letting them know that a worker is en route. If for any reason the seeker or the worker has to cancel the job, we send a notification to the other party, just letting them know that it's been canceled. And in the case of when it's a worker that cancels the job, we also relist that job if there's any time remaining. Once the job is complete, the worker can go right back into the application and hit that Job Complete button, which will prompt the seeker for his payment information. And to talk to you a little bit about that payment information, I'm going to bring up our final developer and my good buddy, Tim.
Thank you very much, David. Now, let's talk about payment. Now, like Logan mentioned, there are seekers and workers in this application. So the seekers, they submit the payments, and the workers, they receive the payments. And we want this to be as simple as one user just handing cash to another user, but this time it's with a card and through a mobile device. So first I want to mention we need a payment SDK to do this. An SDK is short for Software Development Kit. And in order for us to actually achieve this fluid functionality in our application, we used Stripe SDK, which is also used by Lyft. So if you're familiar with Uber, this is very much similar to that. Now, first I want to mention we don't actually store the user's card information. We actually just store a token that allows us to access the last 4 digits and their expiration date so that we can pay the worker and also charge the seeker. So first I want to mention it does check if the card is valid or not. So as you can see, there are red numbers here. And the user is entering 1243. Like, what are you doing? Your card's right in front of you. Oh, okay. It's 4242. So they start entering in the right information, and now it allows them to save the card, and they will then be notified that the card was saved successfully. Now, like I mentioned before, there are tokens instead of us just saving like the card number, because that's not secure. They're not going to want to install this app. So this is what a token looks like. It provides us with the card type, along with the last 4 digits, and a card ID. Each card is assigned with a different ID so that it never gets jumbled up. And along with that, it also tells us if the user entered in a valid CVC. And once the transaction is actually complete and successful, they will, both sides will actually get an email receipt. So the seeker will get a receipt saying, hey, you just paid this worker $19.99 for this job. And it also tells them the last 2 digits of their number. So, okay, thank God I didn't use my mom's card. Okay, so, and also the worker will actually get something very similar to this email receipt. And that's basically the payment screen. Now, first I want to mention, we really want to thank everyone for coming out. Also want to thank our course directors, our family and friends. We actually have some of our course directors here. We really want to thank everyone for their guidance. And also Jen, our last course director for this program. Without her guidance, we probably wouldn't have had an application that looked like this or even functioned like this, because otherwise we probably would have taken probably a little more mistakes. But also I want to thank Lorraine, really want to thank Lorraine because initially I volunteered to do the design for the application, but I'm not a designer, so, if I want to be a designer, I'll come back here. But, we come to Full Sail to learn how to learn, but some things take a little more time to learn. So, yeah. Well, this is HelpLink, and this is an app that we believe can create a community where help is always near. Thank you.
Let's get your info up here. Thank you. He's got a great voice, doesn't he? Like every time, his second time you've been up here, you were here for the NASA thing, yeah, right? NASA. And I'm jealous. All right, so when you guys first approached me about this app, there was a lot of kind of just question marks all over it, and just like all over it. And I think we kind of spitballed a couple ideas, and you guys were like, "Oh, okay, we're gonna do that." And then to see it materialize, this is kind of what I was talking about before you came up. It's kind of interesting. One of the things that I kind of brought up was that I was worried about the potential for liability, right? And I saw that you addressed some of that in there. You guys want to just comment about like some of the kind of the logistical, I guess, hurdles that would come into making an app like this, which connects people like that?
You guys have any comments?
Yeah, so when we first started this application, when it's from its inception, we thought of an application that, you can get help, but we also had to limit the freedom that the people had and what they could type in. We didn't want people to just, kind of like the whole chat roulette thing. We don't want people to just upload a weird picture and say, come do this for $50. And, so that was a huge hurdle for us. We really had to sit down and think, how are we going to avoid this? And the way that we have done that is with our predefined subcategories, and we're controlling that information that they can type in.
The other part of that was making sure that even for legitimate operations that you were getting someone who was not a serial killer. So the background check information. So this is actually, I think, the first app that we've ever seen come across the stage that actually implemented something like a background check API. So what were some of the challenges using some of these kind of kits that you're using on that side of things?
Well, it was a little more difficult. We had to do it on the back end. So what we do is we send the information up to Kinvi, which was our back end, and then from there we query the API on the back end and just send them the information. And we really didn't want to hold on to a social security number just for privacy reasons and legality issues. So actually the good hire actually collects that information from them. So they contact our potential worker, and then they gather any additional information. That way we don't have to secure any of their extremely personal information. And then what we do is after we've got the information from them, we just continually query Good Hire every 24 hours just to see when they have gotten approved. And once they are approved or denied, we send the worker, the potential worker, a email as well as a notification saying, you're in, or I'm sorry, you didn't meet our qualifications.
And then one thing that wasn't addressed, and I'll just cut it off because I know there's going to be a question. What is the actual monetization strategy then? So you have the workers and you're paying for background checks and that kind of stuff. So how are you actually funding that side of things?
So our monetization strategy is to take 10%, which is 10% lower than all the other applications that are doing something similar to this, like Uber and Lyft. I'll take 20%, but we're only going to take 10.
All right. So yeah, hands going up here. We got at least 3 right here.
Hey guys, good to see all you again. I have sort of a comment / question. I hope that you've looked into it a little bit, and this is just to urge you to do so if you haven't. As the source that is connecting real people to do real work in the real world and not just software, you're kind of moving out of that development mindset. So you're gonna have to consider a lot of other real world business things. The thing that pops into my mind is, have you considered the liability that might be involved if somebody screws up somebody's car or somebody's house or kills somebody's dog? Are you liable for that? And if you don't know the answer to that question yet, you need to find out soon.
Yes, this is something that definitely troubled us in the first couple of weeks of conceptualizing and developing the app. One of our competitors has actually sort of solved this for us. It just takes a lot of money to do it. They insure every single job. So that's their solution. And it's probably the best solution because you're always going to have that liability. There's really no way around that.
We don't require investment capital for our students to build an app for final project. So, but if there are any investors out there that are watching this that would like to fund them, there's their contact info right there. I mean, just just reach out. We had a couple other hands up. We still have questions right here. Third row.
My question is, you guys have the background checks for the helpers, but not the seekers. What's going to stop a serial killer or a sex offender from posting up a job, having me mugged, or worse, obviously?
I don't have an answer for that. That's a really good point and good question. I don't think that really ever crossed our mind during development. We were more focused on the helpers, the people that are coming to the seekers. That's a very good question. So I don't really have an answer to that one.
That brings up kind of an interesting follow-up, though, is that, you know, as a developer, you have to think about things that aren't always, I guess, commonplace, right? So if I'm a plumber now and somebody calls me and says, hey, you know, my toilet's clogged, I don't do a background check on them before I go to try to fix their toilet. So I really don't know, you know, as a business owner. But you do bring up an interesting point, is that when it's an app, it's, I don't know, more intimate or more, you know, kind of facilitating in this. So it's kind of interesting. I never thought about it either, honestly, until just now. Thank you for that. That was an excellent question. All right, we got 2 more right behind you. Oh, and one over here. Okay.
So it looks like services are already out there. People are already doing these services, and this app pulls those services into a convenient place. But have you thought about how you're going to handle competition of those services?
No.
Yes.
There is some dissension in the ranks.
So there are services out there. People can come mow your lawn, and people can do that, but there is not an application that combines them all. So that's just kind of what we were aiming for. You know, you can hire somebody to come mow your lawn, you can hire somebody to, you know, groom your pet, but we're just trying to be different and combine those services into one unique application.
Was your question about if there's more than one person that's willing to do a service, or was it about actual competition in the marketplace?
A little bit of both.
So I think you do have a solution for the other one too, right? So if I do need my toilet unclogged or whatever, and there are more than one plumber in the area, how are you guys handling that?
It's first come, first serve. I'd also like to follow up that we're a little different as well, as our app is more so focused on time sensitive. So you want help now. So that's what kind of sets us apart.
And, go ahead.
Hi guys, congratulations again. My question is it's basically I have a question and a follow-up depending on how you answer the first question. And you guys mentioned you do background checks. I was curious as to how much you're paying for those, or whether or not the API you're using to get that is free, or what? Because if so, I might have a better way for you guys to get those cheaper.
Awesome. No, it's not free. It was free for development. We were able to use a free version. You basically, when a user types in their name right now, it just automatically grabs a specific person already. But all we have to do is turn that on and then send them the correct name, and then it's $10 every time.
Well, that said, you might want to look into local private investigation to because they have all the licensing and everything to do background checks, and it's typically a lot cheaper than that. And if you guys are going to be doing this at a mass rate, you could be guaranteeing them a lot of background checks that would come out to be a lot cheaper. So
That's an awesome idea. Thank you, Wade.
Voldemort, you had a question?
Anyway, hi, it's nice seeing you all. Also, nice ties. I like them all.
Yes, this might be our sharpest looking group right here ever.
So I just wanted to ask something along the lines of, it seems like we're all asking kind of similar-ish questions about liability and things of that sort. What happens in your app if, say, somebody, a worker or helper, right, comes to help do this job, and the seeker doesn't pay them? Is there any repercussions? Do you have any way to report them or something along those lines?
Right now, the only system that we've got in place for that is a rating system. But outside of that, I don't think we're accounting for that right now. So that's definitely something that we need to do a better job of. A reporting system would work perfectly in that instance, most likely.
Does the rating system go both ways? I was paid on time for the helper and then the seeker? Yes. So there's something there to at least kind of flag that user as you might not get paid, right? That's a good start. Good question. Very good question. Amir?
Hi, guys. Great job on the app, first of all. Congratulations on graduating. I have a question about the pricing of the jobs. So from what I could tell, it seemed to me that the seeker is able to kind of name your own price on the job that they are requesting someone to come help them with. Have you accounted for anything okay, I'm going to say I want someone to come walk my dog for, which I guess that doesn't really make sense, but for $1 billion or whatever, how do you regulate that?
Well, I mean, if they want to choose to enter in $1 billion, we're getting 10% of that. But
I realize I realized they were in my question,
but,
so thank you guys.
But if they wanted to say, we actually have a minimum, so $10. So you can't just say, oh, walk my dog for $1. But, $10, maybe, but you're probably not going to get that many people going for your job. But if that answers your question, I hope so. Okay.
Excellent, excellent. All right, we might have time for, we got one more question.
So currently is, like to follow up with what Amir said here, it's the seeker names their price and then somebody just agrees that that's what they're going to pay. Have you considered doing something more because currently it's first come, first served, because you said my budget for this is what I would like to pay or what I would pay for this, and have people kind of do a bid thing, so one person can say, I'll do it for this much, or somebody else might say, I'll do it for, $5 less or something like that, to have kind of a bidding, because it's kind of like most of the freelance work sites are right now.
Yeah, so that was one of our first ideas, was maybe have it like an auction type service where, somebody will say, oh, I'll do it for 20, or I'll do it for 15, or, I'll do it for $25 or whatever. We just really focused, we had a lot going on this month, so we really focused on functionality. We don't have a maximum cap because, if somebody's willing to accept a job for a lot of money, again, We're getting paid for it. I mean, all these questions are great questions. We don't have anything immediately in place currently.
And again, it is something that we discussed, and ultimately we decided to stick with the way we had it. And the reason for that was because this app is really focusing on, I need help now. We don't have time to bid. I need somebody to come jump my car right now.
And to add on to that further, during our market research, one of our competitors was using that pricing model for about 2 years, and due to declining numbers, they switched, and that it was way better for them. So it sounds like it works in concept, but it doesn't seem to work as well when actually applied.
So, moral story, functional product, a lot of great ideas, a lot of room to grow, and if you are an investment person, their contact information is right there. Okay. With that said, it's getting pretty late, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time, especially yours. I'd like to personally congratulate you for the hard work. 2 solid years, you're done. Does it feel good? Does it feel good?
Yeah.
Does it feel good? So please, one last round of applause for all of our grads. And I'd also just like to take a second to give a personal shout out and congratulations to our online grads that aren't able to join us here tonight. I will be posting your videos on our Connect site for everyone to see. It might not be tomorrow. It might be early next week, but I'll get them up there as soon as I can. It's a busy day for you guys tomorrow and me as well. So we're excited about that. Thank you everyone for joining us both here and online. We appreciate it. This has been the Mobile Showcase for September 2016. Thank you, everybody.
Good job. No, what do you think?